What's up, y'all? KendramaCo Kendama back with another Kendama review, and today we're reviewing the 365 Fusion shape. If you guys don't know who 365 is, it's owned by two of the most OG players in the Kendama game right now, which is Chris Goon and Nick Stodd. Former players of different companies before, but they came together and started their own brand called 365 Kendama. They got a stacked team. They got Caleb doing all the media stuff on Twitch and all the videos, and then obviously the big one, they have Shredwin on their team, which is, he's so good at Kendama. Overall dope team, and I'm super excited to review this awesome shape that they came out with. Going very quickly over designs and wood options, they've done bamboo, they've done maple, they've done beech, and I don't know if they've done anything other than that. If they have, I'm going to list it here. They also got some of the sickest designs ever. I think Chris is doing a lot of them, and maybe some other people on their team, but right here I have the first mural series thing they did. This is the orange and black colorway. This thing is super beautiful. I also have the white and purple heart one, and this one was the Kush one because I was at Battle. And from now on, I think they're going to be using the new sticky, and if they want to collab with Sweets again, they're probably going to do Kush again, which is super sick. But yeah, so many wood options, so many designs. Edwin has a pro model that looks beautiful. So many different options that you can't go wrong with. I got calipers now, so I can tell you guys the inner diameters of all these cups, which is super awesome. I don't know if I'm using them right, so I'm going to list what I have, but if they're wrong, then I'll list something else. But I have 22 millimeters for the big cup, 21 millimeters for the small cup, and 19 millimeters for the base cup. The thing that stands out to me is that the small cup and big cup are only a millimeter in difference, which is kind of crazy. And you can tell when you're playing because the shape feels super duper balanced, and the closeness in size between the small cup and big cup has a big part to do with that. With that being said, let's get into how this thing plays. So instead of talking about if this thing cups, we're just going to go over the overall in-hand feeling, and I really enjoy the in-hand feeling of this. All the lines in this thing are super smooth. None of them are super hard. They don't feel rough on the hands. For example, we have a really nice curved handle stall point right here, which feels super smooth when you grab the Ken, and it also helps with that stall point. We also have a really smooth ring, which also, again, helps with that in-hand feeling if you grab right there. It also has really nice curves on the Nightingale and the bird stall point, and that also helps with the stalls as well. It's also a taller shape, but it doesn't feel too long or anything. It feels really proportionate in the hands, and it's super fun to just have it in your hand, flip it, catch it, all that kind of stuff. Going into your balance tricks, your lighthouses are going to be solid because the base cup is pretty big. Catch a lot of lighthouses on this thing. Instances are super fun on it for that reason, and also just trust when that trip is coming back, I'm going to land it, which is super nice because of how solid the base cup feels. It's not overly big, but the way it's shaped and the way the Ken is itself, everything's weighing down, so the lighthouses feel very solid. When it comes to lunars, this is probably one of the best Kendamas for lunars that looks more like a conventional, traditional shape than shapes today. Like I said earlier, with the big cup and the small cup being about the same size, it's going to be super balanced. So you get slapping lunars from this thing. It's crazy. And then to add on to that, we have a warp hole down there, and it's not too deep, which I like a lot. When you have a warp hole too deep, you kind of lose feeling in other tricks, which it doesn't really impact those other tricks the way I thought it would with how this warp hole is shaped, but not too deep, but it's pretty wide. When it comes to Ken flips and juggles on this thing, like I said earlier, the in-hand feeling is great, and it flips super nice. The way this thing flips specifically with mine, and it might be because the cups are super heavier on mine, it's going to lead with the cups just a little bit, but not fully, so it doesn't feel like a hammer is getting thrown your way, but you can kind of feel that the cups will lead during your flip. If you don't flip it right, sometimes the flip feels slow. Now that could just be me. You see Edwin play with this thing and nothing really matters because he does everything with it. Yeah, that's just personally me. I'm a normal Kendama player. And sometimes I flip it wrong and the flip doesn't really come up right. And again, as we're talking about Ken flips and juggles and how it feels, again, just one of the best in-hand feelings because of that handle stall, just smoothness. It's so good. I love it so much. When it comes to stalls, this has some of the best stall points in the game right now that don't have stepped cups. We have a nice roundness on the bird point and the Nightingale point, and the stalls with this really big bevel just feel super solid every time you land it. And some of the design and the burn lasering happening right here is kind of helping with it, but honestly, like, even with fresh bev, when I first got this, it was landing stalls super nice, and that's always a telling sign that you just have a really good stall Kendama. Also for the stalls, if you want like underbirds, this will kind of lock in, but it's not an aggressive ring, so it's not going to lock in like hard. And also if you want to hook, like, it's possible, but like not really. If I did this trick, I probably wouldn't choose this one first. Chris and Nick, you killed it on the stall points because, geez, like, it just, they stop and they're not stepped cups, so that's super awesome. Continuing with stalls, one of the best ring stalls and best handle stalls in the game, in my opinion. I don't do rings like that, and I actually enjoy doing rings on this thing, surprisingly enough. And the handle stall point is just chef's kiss. That roundedness on it is just perfect, and it's so good. Getting into another good thing that this Kendama can do, and that is taps. because the warp hole isn't too deep, you still feel your taps and you can feel it come back at you, which is what you want during your tap. You want to feel your tap and you don't want to feel like you're breaking the kendama. Kendamas don't break in half or anything when you do taps, but if it's too hollow, it can kind of feel like that sometimes. I'm not a good tapper. I can do 3s and 4s and that's about it, but they feel really nice, especially with the way this base cup is shaped. The center of gravity on this thing is like right here, so you can kind of, it almost feels like there is a dowel in the middle of this, and when you tap, it's literally turning on that dowel. That's how solid they feel with taps on this thing, so I'm pretty happy about how this thing taps. The very last thing I want to talk about is the slingers, and this is an okay slinger dama. I can pull up my trip and my trip, and that's pretty much the thing I go by, and obviously the fast slow thing. This one will fast slow, which is good, but then at a certain point it slips off. Most slinger damas that can fast slow just stick there. But yeah, you really need to like hook on a specific way just because of the space in there, at least for my fingers, but it feels okay. The fact that this is so lunar honed and can do a fast slow is really, really good, and I'll take that any day. It's not the best at slingers, but not every kendama is going to be a good slinger kendama, and they're doable, and that's all it needs to do. That's all it needs to do. Now that I've gone over how this thing plays, let's get into competitions and what I suggested for, and I suggested for literally everything. This thing is a solid all-rounder. It does every single trick, it does lunar specifically really, really well, and it has a really good in-hand feeling. When you're going to freestyle, you can go from trick to trick and going your spacewalks, going your lunars, your ken flips, and your juggles, and your cup flow, whatever you want to do. This thing does them all well, and when you transition from each one of them, it feels really good. Open, it locks in a lot of different tricks, and a lot of different people use this shape to compete, and they've done really well. Example, Shredwin. And then ladders are ladders. It's good for every trick, and I don't see why it would be bad in ladders. And one of the biggest things about this is it doesn't feel too technical. There are damas that are like good all-rounders that are good for competition, but they feel kind of technical when you're using them in like a lunar flip or a ken flip. This one's kind of not sloppy, but pretty loose with how you can get into different things. So specifically with freestyle, if you're doing like a sketch recovery or something, this thing has a lot of give when you're playing with it. When it comes to price point of this thing, yes, the price point is pretty fair all around. I think they haven't gone over 50, and if they go over 50, it's either a pro model or it's a cushed thing. Everything is below that, and for a shape this good and for designs this cool, well worth it. And if you get the new China Sticky, even more worth it because the new China Sticky is sick. And just pick from the woods if they have beech or if they just have maple. It doesn't really matter because they're all going to play Super 6. The fusion shape from 365 is it. It is super dope. Now with the objective review done, would I do anything different to change this shape? And not really. These are just personal preference things. These are not things that have to happen to make this shape good. There's just things that I like to make this space right here just a little bit more honed for fingers when you're doing slingers and stuff like that. That would be nice. So either that's thinning out this whole area just a few millimeters, adding a little bit more weight back into the base cup, or just messing around with the shape of the whatever balance thing you have in there. Because honestly, I think there's a big difference between just having a warp in there versus having like a deep small hole versus, you know, XYZ. The shape of the hole down here makes a difference when it comes to weight distribution of the base cup, and adding a little bit more weight and changing this would help with the slings just a little bit. That is not an end-all be-all thing, but just something to think about if they were to change the shape a little bit. That's my 2 pieces. Very, very good kendama from 365. I know this isn't technically the first run of the shape. They did the Sulap thing and then they modified it, but very good 1.5 or second shape, whatever you want to call it. It's a very, very solid kendama. That's all I have for the 365 Fusion. If y'all enjoy this video, please hit the like button, subscribe button, and hit post notifications so you can be one of the first to watch these videos when they come out. And obviously sharing the video goes a long way for the channel. If I missed anything, go ahead and sound off in the comments if I missed anything about this shape. This is Elijah from KendramaCo, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.